Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're going to continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We're on Canto 3 and Chapter 29, which is entitled Explanation of Devotional Service by Lord Kapila. So, Devavati Ruvacha Lakshanam Mahad Adinam Prakrite Purushasya Cha Swarupam Lakshyate Amisham Yena Tat Paramarthikam Yatha Sankheshu Kathitam Yanmulam Tat Prachakshate Bhakti Yogasya Me Margam Bruhi Vistarashaha Prabhoho. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Devavati inquires, my dear Lord, you have already very scientifically described the symptoms of the total material nature and the characteristics of the spirit according to the Sankhya system of philosophy. Now I shall request you to explain the path of devotional service, which is the ultimate end of all philosophical systems. So Devahuti is also, she knows that whatever path you take, philosophy or you take mysticism, meditation, has to come to the point of devotional service, because that is the goal, devotional service. We can get perfection only if we engage in devotional service. True liberation, if we really want true liberation, then we have to come to the point of devotional service. In this 29th chapter, the glories of devotional service are elaborately explained, and the influence of time on the conditioned soul is also described. The purpose of elaborately describing the influence of time is to detach the conditioned soul from its material activities, which are considered to be a simply waste of time. In the previous chapter, material nature, the spirit, and the Supreme Lord or Super Soul are analytically studied. And in this chapter, the principles of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service, the execution of activities in the eternal relationship between the living entities and the personality of Godhead are explained. Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the basic principle of all systems of philosophy. All philosophy which does not aim for devotional service to the Lord is considered merely mental speculation. So the philosophy has to bring us to devotional service to the Lord. If there is any philosophy which does not bring us to devotional service to the Lord, then that is simply a product of the mind. Our minds are very speculative. Our minds are very imaginative. And if we are indulging in any of this kind of speculation, then that is still material. It's not going to give us perfection. So the Vedic philosophy is the highest philosophy, and the Vedic philosophy brings us to devotional service. All the Vedas are there to bring us to this point of devotional service. But of course, Bhakti Yoga with no philosophical basis is more or less sentiment. There are two classes of men. Some consider themselves intellectually advanced and simply speculate and meditate, and others are sentimental and have no philosophical basis for their propositions. Neither of these can achieve the highest goal of life, or if they do, it will take them many, many years. Vedic literature therefore suggests that there are three elements, namely the Supreme Lord, the living entity, and the eternal relationship, and that the goal of life is to follow the principles of bhakti or devotional service and ultimately attain to the planet of the Supreme Lord in full devotion and love as an eternal servitor of the Lord. So if we are saying that if there is philosophy which does not bring us to bhakti, that is mental speculation. Similarly, even devotional service has to have philosophical basis. The entire Vedas are there to support this. Otherwise, it's merely sentimental. Whereas we are not sentimental, we are not mental speculators. We want to become bhaktas, devotees, perfect our life. Otherwise, it is said, if there is no philosophy and simply sentimental, then it will take many, many years. So the entire Vedas, they deal with these three things. There's the Supreme Lord, then there are the living entities, and the relationship between the Lord and the living entities. So the relationship between the Lord and living entities is one of love, is based on love, and it's reciprocal. As the living entity loves the Lord, the Lord also loves the living entity. And the highest perfection is to be situated in this relationship. To be situated in this relationship and never to come back to this material world again, but to go back home, back to Godhead. Sankhya philosophy is the analytical study of all existence. One has to understand everything by examining its nature and characteristics. So Sankhya analysis, we have been studying how the material nature was so minutely analyzed, how it was said that there's first just the pradhan, then there's the mahatattva. From the mahatattva comes the false ego. And then this false ego, when it combines with the three modes of material nature, all the material manifestations take place. Whatever we can see, whatever we can experience is all the combination of this false ego with the three modes of material nature. So this is the system of Sankhya, which is analyzing this entire material manifestation. This is called acquirement of knowledge. But one should not simply acquire knowledge without reaching the goal of life or the basic principle for acquiring knowledge, Bhakti Yoga. So one can get this, we are getting the knowledge, but what is the goal of all this knowledge? The goal of all knowledge is to develop our love of God. We don't have to simply stop at the point of understanding the nature of the cosmic manifestation, but we have to go beyond that. That is to develop love of God. That is the goal of life. If we give up Bhakti Yoga and simply busy ourselves in the analytical study of the nature of things as they are, then the result will be practically nil. It is stated in the Bhagavatam that such engagement is something like husking a paddy. There's no use beating the husk if the grain has already been removed. By the scientific study of material nature, the living entity, and the supersoul, one has to understand the basic principle of devotional service to the Lord. So Bhagavatam is saying that if we are just going to simply study the philosophy without coming to the point of bhakti, then we are just simply wasting our time. The analogy is given that the husks, you have to beat the husk, the paddy, I'm sorry, you have to beat the paddy to separate the rice from the husk, to get the grains of rice. But if the rice has already been removed and we are just going to beat we are just going to beat on the skin, we are not going to get anything. What's the point then? What are we going to do only with the skin? The grains of rice are not there. So similarly, if you're just going to stick to the point of Sankhya without developing love of God, then what is the point of all the knowledge of the cosmic manifestation? So the goal is to develop love of God, to be established in a eternal loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. Is that okay?
Yes.
Virago yena purusho bhagwan sarvato bhavet achakshva jiva lokasya vividha mama samshritihe. Devahati continues, my dear Lord, please also describe in detail, both for me and for people in general, the continual process of birth and death. For by hearing of such calamities, we may become detached from the activities of this material world. In this verse, the word samshriti is very important. Shreyasri, Shreyasriti means the prosperous path of advancement towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and samsriti means the continued journey on the path of birth and death towards the darkest region of material existence. People who have no knowledge of this material world, God, and their actual intimate relationship with Him are actually going to the darkest region of material existence in the name of progress in the material advancement of civilization. So this human life is given to us. It's an opportunity for us to understand who we truly are, who is God, and what is our relationship with God. To be situated in that relationship. Each and every one of us, we are living entities. And each and every one of us, we have an intimate relationship with God. And we need to revive this relationship. That this is the goal of human life. Now, but we are not practically given any information of this. And our lives, we are busy trying to cultivate all the material knowledge, material advancement. So our full time and energy is going just to maintain the body. And we have no knowledge, no universities are giving us this knowledge that, hey, you know what, you're not the body, you're the soul, and you have an intimate relationship with God. No one is teaching that. And so the civilization, this modern civilization, we are just going towards the darkest regions. To enter the darkest region of material existence means to enter into a species of life other than the human species. Ignorant men do not know that after this life, they're completely under the grip of material nature and will be offered a life which may not be very congenial. So law of karma is there. Law of karma is there. And then based on our karma and based on our desire, we are going to get the next body. Material nature is preparing another body for us based on our desires and karma. And so if our desires and our activities are animalistic, then material nature, Mother Nature says, oh, you need a body suitable to suit your needs. And so she will give us body of animals. And that's not very congenial because in animal life, we do not have the intelligence to ask, who am I? Why am I suffering? No. How a living entity gets different kinds of bodies will be explained in the next chapter. This continual change of bodies in birth and death is called samsara. So the circle of life, samsara, giving up one body and taking up another. Devahuti requests her glorious son Kapila Muni to explain about this continued journey, to impress upon the conditioned souls that they are undergoing a path of degradation by not understanding the path of Bhakti Yoga, devotional service. So Devahuti is saying, my dear Lord, you please explain that how we are taking birth and dying so that we can get detached. We are so attached. She's saying for herself and she's saying people in general. So people like us, she's asking this question for us. So that by hearing it, we can try to understand a bit, oh, what am I doing? What am I going? I'm just going in repeatedly in the cycle of birth and death. Let me try to understand what is this Bhakti Yoga. So that is her compassion. That is her compassion on us, both for me and for people in general, she's saying. So, reading on. Kalas Yeshwara Rupasya Paresham Cha Parasyate Swarupam Bata Kurvanti Yadde toho kushalam janaha. Please also describe eternal time, which is a representation of your form, and by whose influence people in general engage in the performance of pious activities. However ignorant one may be regarding the path of good fortune and the path down to the darkest region of ignorance, everyone is aware of the influence of eternal time, which devours all the effects of our material activities. So whether we are able to understand, are we on a path going back home, back to Godhead, or are we still in the path of this continuing birth and death? Prabhupada is saying we are aware of the effects of time, influence of time. The body is born at a certain time, and immediately the influence of time acts upon it. From the date of the birth of the body, the influence of death is also acting. The advancement of age entails the influence of time on the body. If a man is 30 or 50 years old, then the influence of time has already devoured 30 or 50 years of the duration of his life. So time, even when a baby is just born, we say 1 day old, means time has already started its effect on the child of that baby, on the body of that baby. 1 day old. So time has taken away 1 day from his life. We are saying 30 years old or 50 years old, means time has taken away our 30 years or 50 years. So we are all aware of the influence of time. Everyone is conscious of the last stage of life, when he will meet the cruel hands of death. But some consider their age and circumstances, concern themselves with the influence of time, and thus engage in pious activities, so that in the future they will not be put into a low family or an animal species. Generally, people are attached to sense enjoyment and so aspire for life on the heavenly planets. Therefore, they engage themselves in charitable or other pious activities. So none of us want to suffer. We all want to enjoy ourselves. Enjoy. And then we know that if we do good activities, then we will get good results. And by that good results, we will be able to enjoy more. So we are saying, okay, let me do some good activities. Let me do some charity. Let me do something good so that I can have a good placement in my next life, so that I don't suffer, so that I can enjoy, get heavenly pleasures. Even going up to heaven is a material pleasure, because heaven, the heavenly planet, Swargalok, is still within the material world. But actually, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, one cannot get relief from the chain of birth and death, even if he goes to the highest planet, Brahmalok, because the influence of time is present everywhere within this material world. So we may do a lot of charity, we may do a lot of pious activities. We may do some pious activities which will take us to the heavenly planets, or even up to the highest planet in the material world, which is called Brahmalok, where Lord Brahma lives. And the age, the lifespan of on that planet is magnificent compared to our human life. Lord Brahma, he lives for the 1,000 Chaturyugas. It's just his 12 hours. So it's like phenomenal. It's almost like 311 trillion years or something of human years that he lives. But he has to die also. He also has to die. And then depending on his desire and karma, he's going to get a next body. In the spiritual world, however, the time factor has no influence. So in the spiritual, time is eternal. Time is eternal. So in the spiritual world, time does not have its deteriorating effect. Here in the material world, time deteriorates everything. something is very nice and fresh, but with time, it just deteriorates. Just deteriorates. That's the influence of time in the material world. But in the spiritual world, time does not have this deteriorating effect. Is that okay? Did anyone want to add it? We continue reading. Can we continue? Lokasya mithya bhimater achak shushas chiram prasupatasya tammase anashraye shantasya karmasya anuviddhaya dhiya tvam avirasihi kila yoga bhaskaraha. My dear Lord, you are just like the sun, for you illuminate the darkness of the conditional life of the living entities. Because their eyes of knowledge are not open, they are sleeping eternally in that darkness without your shelter. And therefore, they are falsely engaged by the actions and reactions of their material activities. And they appear to be very fatigued. It appears that Srimati Devahuti, the glorious mother of Lord Kapila Dev, is very compassionate for the regrettable condition of people in general who, not knowing the goal of life, are sleeping in the darkness of illusion. So we can see Devahuti, she is compassionate. She's asking these questions for our benefit. She's saying general people are sleeping in the darkness of ignorance. They don't know what's the truth, what's happening. And happily people are thinking, okay, we are the body, we have to engage in our material duties. And like this, life comes to an end and we go into another body. So she's saying this is a regrettable situation. So it is the general feeling of the Vaishnava or devotee of the Lord that he should awaken them. This is a Vaishnava. Vaishnava is always compassionate. Vaishnava wants to deliver not only himself, find perfection not only for himself, but also for others. He wants everyone else also to go back home, back to Godhead, because he knows that because we are here thinking we are the body, we are suffering. But as soon as we understand our true position, then we can be eternally happy. We don't need to be here in the material world. So similarly, Devahuti is requesting her glorious son to illuminate the lives of the conditioned souls so that the most regrettable condition of life may be ended. The Lord is described herein as Yoga Bhaskara, the son of the system of all yoga. Devahuti has already requested her glorious son to describe Bhakti Yoga, and the Lord has described Bhakti Yoga as the ultimate yoga system. So she is addressing Lord Kapila Dev as Yoga Bhaskara, the son of the system of all yoga. Sun illuminates everything. It's because of the sun we are able to see everything properly. Because of the light of the sun is sustaining our lives in this universe. So she is describing the Lord as Yoga Bhaskara, the one who is sustaining everything. And the Lord has already described Bhakti Yoga as ultimate yoga. Yoga means Bhakti Yoga. Whatever path we take, it may be Gyan or it may be Ashtanga Yoga, we have to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga. So we'll stop here for today. Are there did anyone want to add anything?
I just want to add that what Devahuti Mata is saying is that the regrettable condition of people is like how they are behaving the same as how animals are, right?
That's right.
So like sleeping, mating, and defending. So that's
right.
what. Okay.
Yes.
So we
Sleeping in
we
the
have
darkness of illusion. That's right. because she is saying that people don't know that they are the souls, that they have eternal relationship with God, and so that's why they are not engaging in that relationship of bhakti yoga, and that is regrettable. People are thinking that they are just the bodies, and so as you rightly said, that we are continuing in our animalistic propensities, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So she's saying what's going to happen to them? They'll give up this body, and the next body they will take animal bodies. Then they didn't make use of the human life, which they had the opportunity to get out of this material world. They didn't use it.
Right.
So this is the regrettable condition, Devahati is saying. So we'll stop here today. Thank you so much for listening and enjoying it. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shilpa Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.